Hi everyone, I'm going doing another tutorial video. So this one is to do with lettering, script writing, lettering. I'm just showing you the pen I'm using there. That's a Staedtler, I don't know how to pronounce it. 0.1 liner. They're very good pens, I use them all the time. There's a 0.8 there as well. I don't think I actually ended up using that in this particular piece, but I use it quite a bit for other things. So that was good to have. And there's a Copic, is it 100 Chow thing? I don't know how to pronounce that either. I've never really looked at it. You can see that's one end, it's kind of hard, and the other end is like a brush pen. It's a soft tip. It's just a black pen. So the key to really, I find for lettering is you're using the tool that you have. You use the pen. So I'm going to slow down the writing so you can see. I literally, it's all about applying pressure, how you apply the pressure, and obviously it's about flow and practice and things like that, but you use the pen to create the thickness and thinness that you see in letters, and that applies across the board with lettering in general, all types of lettering. See, I'm pressing and then I'm lightening up and then leaning and letting go, and that's how you get that thick and thin effect throughout all lettering. It seems obvious when you see it, but I never really clicked properly. Well, I did quite a long time ago now, but for a while I didn't. And you'd see people trying to recreate this thick and thin business with pencils and pens and stuff. But it's all about the marker or the brush or the pen that you use. That's how you get that effect. It's like when you see kanji, Japanese text and writing. The reason it has that thick and thin effect as well is because generally it would have been done with a brush, as far as I understand. So the brush goes to a point, and if you lean on it, it gets fatter. I probably messed up a few parts in this. It's kind of just winging it again, just to do a relatively simple video, just to show you kind of how I do it. These are like lettering. The secret to lettering is practice makes perfect. You have to get them uniform. As you can see, all the lines, like the line of the L and the line of the what will eventually be T's in between the two E's there, and the I and the R, they're all basically parallel lines. They all follow the same angle. That's very important. That's like crucial part of lettering, as far as I can see. Yeah, you can see I'm joining the I to the N there now, and I made a mistake. It should be a lot thinner. My N is stylized. I put a kind of a flick at the end of it, so it doesn't look perfectly like an N, but that's just the way I like to do it. Like a lot of the time I would have used guidelines. I'd use light lines for the top and the bottom of the letter, so I know exactly that all the letters are going to be the same thickness. And there's nothing wrong with having loads of guidelines to begin with, and you just get used to it over time. Like, they're not perfectly set up height-wise. The E's are not uniformly perfect. The G isn't as big as the rest of the letters. You can see the bottom of the G. I'm kind of doing a bit of the L there now, but I'm adding a few flourishes in there now, just extra little flicks. Those are little things that you can kind of come up with yourself, but I mean, all of this comes from, like, I've learned this from watching people do it, from being tattooed by people who do lettering. But I think that the crucial thing with lettering, number one, is what you're the pen or the pencil or the brush that you're using. It's very important to use the correct tool, and then it's just loads of practice to get it uniform. So you kind of deciding now where to put a flourish. I think I put another one in the L, and I think it'll make it look not as good. You can see, yeah, there's the difference between the E's, and there's that mistake there that I did. It's just too thick. The join between the I and the N should be thinner. I was trying to have whatever I'm drawing on loose so I can turn it to get the right angle on whatever I'm drawing, instead of trying to make my hand fit the angle, twisting my arm or whatever. I'll twist the piece of paper or the canvas or whatever it is, or even if it's a tattoo with a person, I'll twist them or I'll twist myself around to get to the right angle, because you got to get the right angle on whatever you're drawing to make it work, to make it flow. This is a little bit slowed down, so I probably took a little bit less time to figure out what I was doing. And I'm really just showing you relatively simple. Oh yeah, you're right. You can see I messed up the L there. I think I put too many flourishes on the L. It's just a bit bumpy looking now. But it is what it is. I did it. Now I start doing a kind of light surround line using my Staedtler 0.1 pen. Yeah, it's just another thing that I picked up from watching. You can do like drop shadows, which is basically a shadow on one side of the letter. Or you see people doing this as well, doing a full surround. It's kind of my go-to thing that I do. Try and keep the distance between the light line and then the lettering uniform throughout. Like if it's 2 mil, make sure it's 2 mil as much as possible. Make sure it's 2 mil all the way around. Try and keep it uniform. It's all about uniformity. Obviously flow is very important as well, the way the flourishes flow and the lettering flows and stuff like that. Like I wouldn't consider myself an expert in lettering, but I've certainly done quite a lot of it in tattooing throughout the years, so I've picked up a nice bit of it and I enjoy doing it. And I've watched a lot of tattooers, a lot of friends of mine. I have a friend from Mexico, George. He's always been really good at lettering, and he kind of showed me a lot when I was starting out tattooing about how he did it, and I kind of picked up bits from there. But it's just a process that you go through to figure out what to do. Yeah, I've been tattooed by a few very good lettering tattooers. Big Mees. And I always forget his name. He's a guy from Peru, I think. La Mala something or other. I'll see if I'll find it, and I'll put a link in the description so you can see who it is. I'll put a link to Big Mees and that other guy who tattooed me as well. They're both wonderful, and they just specialise in lettering. That's all they do. I think Big Mees was a letter writer before he was a tattoo artist, a sign writer, and probably a graffiti writer as well. It's like when you see like the likes of graffiti and street writing and stuff, again, it's all down to what they're using, like, and that's how they get this, whatever style, whatever type of lettering you see, like that graffiti style lettering is so because of the tools they're using. Usually they're using like spray cans and stuff, and you get that effect when you use a spray can and you add your own je ne sais quoi. So I think I sped this up again a bit then, just so you don't have to watch the whole thing in real time, even though I think it wouldn't hurt to watch it in real time. Getting kind of accurate with lines, keeping them perfectly straight or perfectly flowing parallel to other lines, that in of itself is a skill. Something that I definitely would have picked up from tattooing, because you have to be able to do that obviously for when you're tattooing, but also for making stencils. Like when I started tattooing, we didn't really have access to stencil machines all the time, so you would have to, a lot of the time, you'd have to make the stencil by hand, which means a lot of tracing, and It also means a lot of accurate lines. These are the Pro markers I'm using. I'm going to use the lightest one, I think, number 1. Probably cool grey as just a background colour to set the lettering out. Yeah, those Pro marker background colours are fantastic. The greys, I got a grey set. I think I got it in Vibes and Scribes in Cork City. So it's 5 or 6 markers. You get a black, and then it descends in order of grey, tone from 5, which is quite dark, all the way down to 1, which is very light. I'm using 1 there. You can see as it dries in, it's fairly light, but it's still different to white. Still gives you something else in the background. This is a fairly basic one, like if you look at the likes of Big Me's now or something like that, or there's Big Sleeps and BJ Betts. I got a very cool little travel book at a convention in London. I bought it from BJ Betts, and it shows a lot of example of his lettering. It's a very handy reference I use a lot of the time when I'm tattooing or just drawing. I love putting lettering into lots of my illustrations as well. I just think it gives it a bit of narrative, like a story. I think I sped this section up as well because you get the idea. These markers do tend to bleed through, so you have to choose the right paper. Like I'm using cartridge paper here now. I don't know, it's not quite as thin as your average A4 paper. It's a little bit heavier than that, but it's not. I don't think it's perfect for Pro markers, but I just have a massive amount of it, so I'm using it up. Layout paper is really good for Pro markers. I use layout paper a lot. The paper is quite durable, so you can layer up your colours and not worry about it compromising the paper and tearing it or something like that. So yeah, with some papers, like if it's a cheap old thin paper, photocopy paper or something, and you're layering colours up, it can kind of wet the page, and it doesn't necessarily look nice when it's dried in. It can almost ripple the page or something, or even tear the page sometimes if you're going too heavy with the markers. So yeah, I'd recommend maybe Googling what paper is good to use with Pro markers, but I recommend layout paper or a nice heavy cartridge paper is worth using as well. After switching there now to the thicker side of the Pro marker, just for a bigger area. You can really see the lettering now, it really stands out because of the grey in the background. I'm pretty much nearly done with this. I'll do another lettering tutorial again, maybe just with one large ornate letter. That's it, that's finished, I think. Thanks very much for watching. Please subscribe. Thanks very much. See you later. Bye.